Hey guys, in this video we're going to simulate a network, but it will be a permissioned network. In the sense, only the trusted nodes that have their keys stored in the Keystore, only they can enter the network and connect with the other nodes and interact with the other nodes. Okay, so we're on chapter 8. This document has been shared with you. All the commands that I'll follow in today's session, in this session, you can find them here with all the instructions as well. Okay, to keep things simple, I will go through all the commands here on the terminal itself so that you can follow along. And if you get stuck anywhere, you can always fall back to the documentation that I've shared with you. All right. Now this video is slightly complex, so you'll have to pay a little bit of attention. The thing is, I have two terminals here, okay, because we want to simulate two nodes. And we did that in the last video as well. But the thing is, in both those terminals in the last video, I had the same user, Akhil. But here I have two different users, right? I have one user called Akhil, the other user called Substrate. Now these two are users on my Linux system. I'm using WSL, which is a layer on top of Windows. Okay, so in Windows, it's very easy to create new users for WSL as well. Okay, and in Linux also it's very simple. So even if you're on Mac, Linux, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is just create a new sudo user on your system, and that's what I've done with a password. It comes with a password, and I have started just two terminals, one with my primary user and the other with the new sudo user. Okay. All right, and the thing is, I've opened up the same project. So node 1, substrate node template, that's the same project I've opened on both of these terminals. And this is the one, this is the compiled node we want to use to start off two different nodes from two different users. Now we have two different users because we want to create keys for the users. We want to create different keys for the users. So there are two types of keys, Aura and Grandpa. So we'll create Aura and Grandpa keys for the user Akhil and Aura and Grandpa keys for the user Substrate. Okay. So total 4 keys we'll have to create. Now, before we get started, we have to, before we get started, we have to create those keys. So the first command we'll just copy and paste, and this will ask us for a key password. Now enter in anything that you want. What I've done is I've entered something very simple like ABCD. Okay, just make sure you enter in something very simple like ABCD. That's it, and you get something like this. You get like a secret phrase. Right? If you've created a wallet ever on any of the chains, you know that you get the secret phrase for you to recover that wallet account. So this is your secret phrase. You have to store this, and you have to store this. This is the Aura key. Why is this the Aura key? Because we told in the command, we said in the command, that create an SR25519, which is the scheme, which is from the key generator. Okay, so this creates us the Aura key. So I'm going to go ahead and store this in a safe place. Okay. So and I recommend you also do the same. What you also need to do is store this Aura key. So the next command we have to run, okay, is going to basically create the Grandpa key for us. So what you have to do is you will copy and paste the next command, but make sure in the next command, after ED25519, which is the scheme for the Grandpa, okay, this phrase that you write here is the same secret phrase that was created for you, the one that was created specifically for you. That's the one you have to make sure is there in your command. And when you enter this command, it will ask you again for the same password. So you have to enter the same password, and you'll get the Grandpa key, and you have to store this now. So you store this Grandpa key. So this is done here. Now what you have to do is you have to create the second set of keys. So you'll go to the other terminal on the right, and you will create the second set of keys. So the commands for that are the same, exactly the same, and you will simply copy and paste that command. So SR25519 is for Aura, and here I would enter a different password because this is a different user. Okay. And this created a different secret phrase for me. So I will go ahead and store this secret phrase, and I will go ahead and store the Aura key that it's given me. And now all we have to do is create the grandpa key. And you remember, to create the grandpa key, all you have to do, you have to run the next command with the secret phrase that was just created for you. So if I enter this command here, the scheme is ed25519, which is the grandpa key that will create the grandpa key for me, and this is using the secret phrase that was just created for me right now on top. And I press enter, and it will ask me for the password, and I'll use the password number 2 that I just used, and what I get now is the grandpa key. And I will just go ahead and store it. So wherever you're storing, like let's say a notepad, in my case it's a notepad that looks like this. So wherever you're storing these keys, make sure you just go up and make sure you stored the right keys, right? So this is the grandpa key for me for the previous node. So that looks all right to me. And this is the aura key for me, that also looks all right. And now just check the grandpa 2, which is this with Q, right? And just check the aura 2, which is this with ending with QX1. All right. So in my case, everything seems to be fine, and I have noted all of these things properly, along with the secret phrase and the passwords that I used to create them. Now what you have to do is you need to create something called as the custom spec. Okay, and I've given you these commands. So what you do is you create the custom spec, and you just copy and paste this command. So we'll say building chain spec. So if you want to see what it looks like, this is what it looks like. You want to see the last few fields, this is what it looks like. But what we want to do is we want to open this up, the custom spec, in a code editor. Okay, so I'll open it up in a code editor, and what you want to do is go to the top of this file, change this to something like my custom testnet, and then search for aura. So you have these aura and grandpa values here. Okay, so what do you want to do? You want to replace it with the values that you had created for the two users, two nodes that you had created, right? So you had aura node that you had created. So what you'll do is you'll go ahead and replace it here, and aura for the second node that you had created. So you will go ahead and replace this. Then you'll replace grandpa for the first node you had created, and you'll replace grandpa for the second node that you had created. All right. So now what this does is this remembers that these are the aura and grandpa values, okay, for the nodes that are permissioned for this network. These are the people who can enter this network. That's what's there in our custom spec. Now using the custom spec, after you've saved this, using the custom spec, you want to create something called as the raw custom spec. So it says custom spec raw.json. This will build chain spec again. Now we'll try to run the first node. Okay, so if you try and run the first node here, you'll get this. It'll be asking you for your password, and you can enter your password then. And now it says idle 0 peers, because obviously we have not started the other blockchain. So before we can create, at the network level itself, you want to have a key store which manages the keys for both the nodes, and which makes sure that only the nodes that have their keys in the key store, only they are connected to the network. So to do that, what you want to do is we want to first, before that, you want to just purge. So make sure you just go here and purge all the data for node 1. So you'll say, instead of Alice, you'll say node 01. Okay, and you'll say that for node 02 also. So why do I say that you should remove data for both of these, like node 1, node 02, is because if you don't do that, right, if you don't do that, it's going to give you errors. Okay, if you get this permission denied, basically it just means that you have to add the sudo command. Okay, so if you don't do this right, you might get errors saying that, hey, you're not able to connect the nodes with the same, or this is on a different blockchain. Basically, what you want to do is you want to have all the data removed for node 1 and node 2. So just like in the last video we used Alice and Bob, in this video we're using node 1 and node 2 to indicate the two different nodes that will connect to each other. And you want to have you don't want to have the data because then they won't be in sync, right? You want to have everything removed, and then when you start the nodes, that's when they'll be in sync. So just do this, and even if you don't do this right now, if you have an error later on saying that the nodes are not able to connect to each other, or something like they're not on the same blockchain, or you might get an error saying grandpa was not able to the grandpa key was not successful in signing a message. So these are the 3 common errors that you'll get. So all of those errors will go away if you do this, okay, if you just follow this. All right, so now what you want to do is you want to store the keys in the Keystore, and for that you have a command, and in that command you want to replace your key. Okay, so let me show you what that command looks like. Yeah, so if you refer to the document that I've shared with you, this is what the command will look like. Okay, but here it says Suri your secret seed. Okay, this is the place where you want to change and put in your secret key. So in my case, the seed phrase that was created was, and after Suri, the command that I showed you, I've just changed and put in my secret phrase, but for the first user. So I created 2 users, if you remember. The first one had its aura and grandpa, the second one on this terminal had its own aura and grandpa. But the first one that I've created on the left terminal, that's the one that I've entered here. And when you say, if you remember SR25519, it means you're storing the aura key. Okay, an aura key associated with node 01 with the custom spec raw.json. Okay, and it also says aura at the end. So this is the one that you want to store. If I press enter, it'll ask me for the password for node 1. You have to remember that, so you enter that. So my aura key is now stored, but I also want to store now my grandpa key. So for my grandpa key, what I'm going to do is I'm going to again copy and paste that command for grandpa key, but I will replace that with the secret phrase. So I will create my command. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It says for node 1 using the custom spec raw.json ed25519, which is the grandpa key for me, and in the place of Suri, I've put in the same secret phrase for node 1. So enter it, it'll ask me again for my password, which is the password for the node 1. And just to make sure that these keys have been added to my Keystore. By the way, there are many more keys that already exist in my Keystore, so your Keystore will look slightly different. But just to be sure, if the keys were added to the Keystore, we will simply say run this command for ls. Again, and we'll see that our key has been added. Okay, and I have many more keys added, but yours will just show 2 keys, something like that. All right, and now what we want to do is we want to start before we start our second blockchain node here, we want to add the keys for this blockchain node also to the Keystore. So we will add the key for the aura and grandpa, and both for aura and grandpa you have to replace the Suri part with the secret key that was created for you for the second node. Okay, so I'm just forming up my command here, and I will then copy and paste it here and show you. This is my command for the second terminal, and this is what it looks like. It says for node 2 using custom spec raw.json SR25519, which is my aura and also mentioned here, and I've put in the secret phrase that was there for my second node. And once I press enter, it'll ask me for my password, and I will enter the password for my second node. Okay, but it says error Keystore operation. That's completely all right. All we have to do is add sudo at the beginning. Okay, because what's saying is that even as a sudo user, you still don't have access to the Keystore. Not a problem. We just add sudo, and if it says that, and we just add the password again. Okay, sudo password for Substrate. and now the Keystore password. Alright, so that worked. Okay, and now I want to do the same thing for my grandpa key, and I will just copy and paste that same part for Suri. So now I'm saying for my node 02, using custom spec router.json, I've changed this part, the Suri part, but 825519 stands for grandpa key, and I will it's asked me for my Keystore password. It might give me another Keystore error operation. Oh, okay, because again we'll have to add sudo at the beginning. Okay, so I go ahead and I add sudo here. It again asks me for my Keystore password, and it was able to accept it. All right, so now all we have to do is start these two nodes. So the first node, we will start with the first command, which is this command, which we had used earlier. Okay, that starts off the first node, which is node 1. It'll ask me for my Keystore password. I'll enter the password for the node 1, and in my second command, okay, second node, I will use the last command that I had used, and I will just add sudo in front of it. So let me copy and paste that command and show you. Here, this is the command. I've added sudo in the beginning, right? And it's giving the same port, telemetry URL, and boot nodes, trying to find this particular node on the left. So I enter that, and it asks me for my Keystore password. So now it gives me this heartbreak message saying the boot node you want to connect to blah 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 blah, provide a different peer ID. So that means I want to change my peer ID here. So all I'll do is I will stop this, and I will take this peer ID, and I will go ahead and replace it in my command. So now if you see after P2P, this boot node ID I have changed to reflect the one of the node on the left, and I enter this, and it says, asks me, and as soon as you see this discovered, that means you have been successful. That's so it was a long process to get here, but as soon as you see discovered, as soon as you see idle, that one peer, you've got one peer, that means both the nodes have discovered each other. That means you have done so much. You have not only started two different nodes, but you have authorized these two different nodes on your custom spec, and you have stored both the keys on the Keystore, your grandpa and aura keys, and they're both able to recognize each other and interact with each other in this private network. All right. So this is quite a complex tutorial. If you've accomplished this, if you've completed this, that's a big win. Okay. Now I know that Substrate documentation is not extremely clear, and you might miss a few things. That's why I recommend just following through my video. If you still don't get something right, follow along again with this video, because trying to find answers on the internet could be slightly difficult, because this is, again, not a lot of content exists around this. And I also told you about 3 errors that you might get, and how you can fix those, and how you can not get those errors. So make sure you do that. If you've reached here, congrats. It's a huge thing, and you're on your way of on becoming a really great blockchain developer. Now in the next video, we'll have 2 nodes, and we'll have a little more advanced authorization for our third node, and we'll use a little bit of the front end for the authorization as well. So we'll take the same concept, we'll just take it to the next level basically. So it'll be on the same lines, will be slightly more complicated, you can say, in the next video. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next chapter. So just to stop off these, you just have to say Control C, and both have stopped, and that is it.